Good day, thank you for joining us for another overview video. In this overview, what we are going to look at is we're going to do an overview of qualifications. So if you're going to be setting up a qualification, what do you need to do? Or what are the aspects that you need to cover when you're doing it? We have got more in-depth user guides that are targeted at going through the entire setup. So this is just an overview. So in qualifications, you'll first want to add the modules which are going to be the course offerings that you're going to have. So you'll come into qualifications, you'll go to qualification modules, and you'll add all of those different what I could call courses or modules that are going to be in the qualification which you need to create. So you add the new one, you give it a name. If you want the name to appear differently on the report, that's the name on reports. So you could have an internal name that you use as a reference that staff recognize, but you may have a standard name that needs to be on the reports because of some compliance thing that you need to do. So you can do it like that. You can give it a code. You can say in general what it's supposed to cover. So that's the content. The other thing you're able to do is you can assign it a color. So the reason for assigning a color is so that when you create an event on the calendar that's linked to this particular module, it will appear with that particular color. Okay, so once you save it, you'll then have the various modules listed. So now we have all the modules we want. We can then, on the qualifications tab, add a new qualification. So when you add a new qualification, it's the same. You have the name and name on report. So what name should display on the report when a report is created. But now we have two other ones, which is what name do you want listed if this course is listed, or qualification, sorry, is listed on the inquiries page, and what name must be displayed if it's listed on your applications page. You can give it a code as well for the qualification description. The minimum credits is the minimum credits required for the learner to pass this qualification. So if you have, for example, 120 credit course, but at your institution it's 126 credit configuration, then you'd put 126 because that's the minimum a learner needs in order to pass. They can get more, but the minimum they require is 126. Default grade symbol, in the previous video I told you that there's a setting for that. It's just the standard way it's going to use for doing calculations for course marks and results. Okay, the NQF level in South African context, overseas it may be called the National Framework for Qualifications. Here we have the National Qualifications Framework, and so there's the NQF level 1 to 8. The subdomain and the classification of educational subject matter, those are standards in South Africa. So you'd say that maybe this is a life science qualification, and then you can put the other information that's related for that. Qualification type is just whether it's from a certificate all the way up to master's, doctorate. Okay, in general, the next one, minimum duration and maximum duration, is how long is the minimum amount of time it takes to pass this qualification or for it to complete, and what's the maximum duration. So you may have something that's a 1-year course, and someone who is able to fully channel their energy into it could complete it in 1 year. But if they don't, the maximum amount of time maybe they have to complete it is within 3 years. Just as an example. On your applications page, this will display, it's called a prospectus summary. You can add images or links for people to download. You can put different information in here, and that will display on your applications page as the first thing the person will see about your course. When they click on the more option, before they need to actually do the application, they can then see additional information. So it's anything that you need to show them that will be like final information that says, before applying for this course, please note the following. Then you can put that stuff in there. So once you're done, you'd save that. I'm just going to go back to one that's already done. And then you'll be led into this layout, which I briefly went over previously. So now we're just going to go a bit in depth. So here's the stuff that I filled in. I've said it's available on our online campus, so it's only available as an online course. If I had other campuses, I could link it to it. In this example, I said it's linked to our CHE, Council for Higher Education in South Africa. If you have another institution and your stuff, another accrediting body, and you need to use different codes and that, you can let us know. And we can just add more options for the different types of codes that you need to record against your qualifications. Okay, so I'm saying it's only offered at this one. So we're going through the steps in the process. So I've created it. I've said which campus it's offered it on. The next thing I can do is build a curriculum. So building a curriculum, because the modules already exist, I'm just going to add a new one and say I'm going to call this a custom learning path. When I do this, I just click on there to expand. It's going to ask me for a first level grouping and a second level grouping. So the first level grouping is just, is this a 1-year course? Is this 2 years, 3 years? So what are the different levels of study? So we only have one level of study. So I'm just going to call this certificate, just as an example. And because you don't need to go to another level, there's no minimum things you need to pass to go to the next level. So within my certificate, I'm going to have full year courses. And at my institution, let's just say we have semesters. So I'm just going to make this semester 1. And semester 2. So this is just for report. So it just creates a layout for your report so that it has a structure according to the way your actual learning program is designed, so that your modules fit in with that structure. So now we'd say something like a required module now, a full year module that we offer, for example, I'm going to say is accessing the course builder, and I'm going to make it 16 credits. I don't need to put in a cost unless I'm going to be using the cost stuff later on. But for this example, I'm just going to say 100. The reason we don't put currency in the system is so it can be used anywhere in the world, because we don't want to have this set as dollars, whereas in your country, you know what the cost is. If you have a special use case where you need something else, you can let us know and we can make that edit as well. So I'm just going to put that in there. So now we have this as a full year course. So now I'm going to add some semester courses. So I'm going to say something that you can do in a semester is adding a qualification. It's worth 7 credits, and that's 250 Rand. I'll show you how pre and co-requisites work now. Okay. So you're going to have adding a qualification. Then in semester 2, I'm going to have setting up a curriculum as a course. Right, you can say that 7 credits. I hit enter by mistake. So that happened. But in order to do this course, you must have first passed adding a qualification. So that's the kind of progression that you can create where you say that to access this course, the person must have done that course. So, sorry, let me just add a price over there. Make this 250. Right. So if that was 250, we're now going to have to make. Sorry, I'm just being pedantic for no reason. Okay. So now we have a curriculum. So when a student registers with our institution, and when the a student is accepted at our institution and we put them into the course, these are the rules that they're going to have to comply with to progress through the learning. So they're going to have to register for this course first and this course first, but they can only access this course, the setting up a curriculum course, after passing adding a qualification course. So that's, we're now creating the whole progression. So that's what the curriculum is for. It can give you that structure that you need for your program. Okay, so we've done a curriculum. Now we want to set up applications. So we have our module set up. We have our prospectus set up because we did that. We then say which campuses will offer it. We'll then we then have our curriculum. So we have a learning path set up. So because all of those things have been set up, we can now say, we are closer to being in a position to accept students for this course. So what we can do now is we can open up a access point for students for this qualification. So I'm going to call this a June 2020 June intake. I can choose which curriculum this intake will be following. And I'll then say that it's open for the month of June only. Okay, so they can apply for this in the month of June, and let's make it a July course, and lectures or training will start on the 1st of July, but they have until the 30th of June to apply for this course. So I save this. Now there's an access point for learners. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is settings. Do we want this qualification to show on the apply page? Yes, I'm going to let it show because this is for demonstration purposes, so I want it to show. Continue to registration. Do I want them to select courses? No, I don't want them to select courses after this. I'll deal with that internally. Auto register into all of the groups. So if there's a group available, automatically put them into the groups. I don't want to do that. I want to control it, so they'll stop at applying, and then I'll deal with putting them into courses afterwards. Okay, are there any costs? If you want to, you can have an admin fee and a deposit for the application, because some institutions like to have an upfront payment deposit before they actually do the registration, and prior to that, they also want to be able to do a application fee so that the person, there's like a processing fee for the application. Okay, we're not going to do entry requirements or go over entry requirements. Basically, if you have a standard for the the entry points calculation for your particular qualification, you can set up entry requirements. And what this will do is it will allow you to let a learner capture their school leaving, what we call a matric, so their high school leaving modules. And because it's going to do their high school leaving modules, the system can automatically calculate whether they qualify for entry or not. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we want to deal with the wizard, which is just going to do the what data do we actually want to collect from them. So the system generally, it will come with a version of a what we call an application wizard, but what you can do is you can add a new one. So I'm just going to say that this is a demo one. Sorry, let me go back to that. So we create a demo wizard. Then it asks, I've already done this, so it's created a number of steps. So it can automatically create a student number or code for you. We have, I think, 4 different options for creating a student code. Or it can do it at different steps. The steps are showing for me because I've gone back into edit. But if you add a new one, obviously the steps don't exist yet because it hasn't created the wizard. So now there's a message that you can display because this is going to end at the end of applications. You don't want them to get lost. You can say, thank you for applying. We will just as an example. You can also put images and links if there's anything you need them to download in preparation for registration or something. You can link those files. So you can upload a file and then have that linked, or you could add images and stuff if there's something you wanted to display on that page. Okay, just going to leave that like that. So by default, when it's created, you always get these 2 steps. The reason is the first step is always name, surname, and email address. Can't make any other changes. You can't add any more other fields. It's always name, surname, email address because we want to be able to maybe send them an activation link. And then you can add a number of steps. And on each step, you can add different sections. So you can say, yes, I want them to enter personal details. I want them to enter a contact number. And what I really need is a mobile number, but I'll show them all the different options. Or I'll only show them mobile number because that is all I need from them. And for address, you need both postal and residential to display, but for legal purposes, the main one you need is the postal address. Okay, other things you can add are, we call them Edudex fields, but it's basically equity and disability fields. So you can add those in. The other ones you can add is if you want them to do a photo, if you want them to do their South African secondary education record. If you have something different in your environment, we can unlock that. So if you want them to upload a copy of their school leaving certificate. Relationships is any other people, so next of kin, spouse, you can add those. If you set it up in the system, you can do a document upload as well. What that does is there's different ones that you can choose to have uploaded, and then it will create the option for that to be uploaded against their profile. That admin fee that we spoke about previously, you can have that there, the deposit. The points calculation was linked to you setting up entry requirements. If you want them to do an identification number, what that's going to do is they can choose between their country identification number or the South African identity number or their passport. You can put that in. And then the last is, like I showed you previously, you can create custom fields. So you can also add your custom fields in. You don't need to have it only on these steps. You can add another step. Okay. You can add another step and then add stuff that you want related to it. The reason for having this setup is when they complete a particular step, the data then gets uploaded to their profile. So if they haven't completed a step, so if I'm sitting on identity information, um, I can't, and I've uploaded a document. Sorry, no, and I've typed in an identification number. It's not going to be saved because I'm just typing in the identification number. But once I click submit so that I can go to the next step, then it will be saved against the profile. This helps you to help the applicant to pause at different steps in case they need to go and fetch documents or get a proof of payment or something. Then the progress up to that step can be saved. So you can just look at it in that way as to how would you like to divide up these steps to make it as easy as possible for them to work through it. And you're also basically taking what would have been a paper or hard copy application form that someone would fill in, and you're putting all those details into a wizard with different steps. There's a whole lot of other stuff that happens here. You can trigger automatic emails. You can trigger staff notifications so that they know they must come in. You can create reviewers for staff so that only certain staff can review it. So you do that, and then you set that as active. Once you're happy with the wizard and you set it as active, it allows you to say that this is the standard for collecting data for a learner for this particular learning program. The other thing you can do is, if you're happy with it, you can then copy it to all your different programs. So you can have a standard wizard for all of them, or the standard template that you copy to others, and then you can edit. So that's the benefit of taking your application form and turning it into a wizard, because you can then copy it to your different qualifications or short courses and then edit them as well to add in more stuff. So they're dynamic. So now we would have set up the curriculum, we've set up an intake, we now have a wizard so that when someone starts an application, they can fill in certain data, and we have certain rules for completing that particular wizard. We can now make sure that when they get to the registration phase for this qualification, is everything set up? So now you'll see that I have stuff open for this year, but I'm going to change it because I'm just going to say that registration is open for the whole year. So you can register anytime in the year, and then we're just going to show what's available for the 2020 groups. Now what you can see is that there's these groups are available, my May and January, but I don't actually want those there because I'm making sure there's stuff for my July group. So what I'll do is just call this July, because I want that batch of students to be together that start in July, also within the groups. So I'm going to have my July groups now available. Bearing in mind that after I've set this up this year, you'll see that there's a link over here where you can go and copy existing groups in bulk. So after your first year of using the system, or first intake of using the system, or first period of using the system, you can then click on that, and then you can copy the groups. So everything that you set up with them as well, you can copy that across. So it's just the first time is most of the setup. So let's just do that. Yeah, so let me add another one last one, just so that we have 3. Okay. So we now have this setup. Okay, now settings, I'm not allowing them to register externally. I can only do it internally. I'm going to set it. These are just different configuration settings. There's a lot of defaults when you create a qualification. I'm just customizing it. But all of them are self-explanatory. I'll just disable all of them. So I think I'm happy with my registration setup. Let's see what the configuration status is. Yeah, it says that I have a learning program. And the next registration period, application period is my June one. You can see the dates there. The registration period is I have it open for the whole year, and I've had it set to show all the modules. There's 5 modules, but there are groups available for registration, so I'm not going to get stuck at registration. So I've happily set that up. So all that needs to happen is, so we've used this first tab and the second tab. So we've done our modules, we've done the qualifications. So now let's see what applications is. So what applications is a method for you to get an overview of applications during a certain period. So you can now see for the different steps you have in your wizard how far somebody is along or who has completed. So you can see that that particular person completed those there. And they were set to start at a certain time for that intake. Okay. So I can now go qualifications, applications, new applicant. Fill in that and say that, oh, I want to put this person into learning program A for the July intake. I'm just going to use somebody that's already existing. Then when I click apply, I go into the wizard that I have set up for collecting the data, and then after that, if I want to, I can continue to registering. So that is a quick overview, almost just a 30-minute overview on what gets set up and what you can configure when you are going to set up a qualification. I hope this has been useful to you, and you now have a better understanding of all the aspects that are covered when setting up a qualification. Please note that you're going to set this up once. You're going to add in, after you've set it up once, you're just going to add groups and intakes every year. So that's the only management you need to do, is have a new intake for every new registration period, because you want to see the learners that start together and be able to report on the ones that start together. You can also set it open if you want to and just manage it using the groups. But that is the logic of that particular setup. So thank you again for watching this video. I hope you found it useful.